I also host a radio show in New York, Equal Time for Free Thought, on WBAI 99.5 FM.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is the Drunk Duck QUACKCAST, and we're on to QUACKCAST number 462. With us are my usual team, Tanserine and Baines. Hi guys.
Hello.
Baines is avoiding a snowplow at the moment. This is one of the problems you face in Canada. But speaking of Canada, we have another person from Canada. We have Jessica Schab. Is that right?
No.
Not at all.
No, Schab.
Schab. Damn it.
Good try, though. Good effort.
I'm very sorry. So Jessica works for a fantastically awesome animation company in Vancouver, which is Mainframe, which has been going on for many, many years. They were the company that was behind the CG animation to Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, which was a huge, famous video clip for that band. And they were way before Pixar or any of that stuff. This was CGI, the first kind of big splash of that. And they also did the much loved cartoon Reboot and like Transformers and many other things. They were fantastic company behind that stuff. And you're working for them now, aren't you, Jessica? Doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so Jessica is she's had interesting lives, basically. She's been working for doing animation as a dream job, and then being a spiritual guru, and then coming back and being skeptical, and like making documentaries and all sorts of things. So we've got a lot to talk about, like the work in the animation world and how that's done, media production, and also building personal brands and publicizing and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a pretty interesting QUACKCAST. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, I have to bring up our usual little spots, which is first we have the featured comic this week. And QUACKCAST is going to tell us about our featured comic, which was The Red Moon. So, Kwai, take it away with Red Moon.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is The Red Moon by Azumi Lee, and it is rated T for teen. On the eve of a terrible event, corrupt government officials will lay the foundation that will unleash a dangerous foe on Adelon City. A young high school student, Yukio, wants to join his older sister's group of motorcyclists, even against his mother's wishes. Jane, a young professional, heiress who runs her own national corporation, sits and contemplates traumatic events from her formative years. What will be the catalyst of the evening's events that will set the course for turning Adelon into a war zone? This comic is drawn in full-colored pages with highly detailed and dramatic angles. Get on a high-speed motorcycle and read The Red Moon by Azumi Lee, rated T.
And that was our featured comic. QUACKCAST just read about that. It's The Red Moon. After that, we have our featured music, of course. Gun Wallace has given us the theme to Sky Blue Moon. So red moons, blue moons. We've got all sorts of moons in our comic titles today, which is bizarre. A total chance. So for my description of this comic, I was tempted to write a bad early 80s rap for it, but I won't torture people that way. The tune is remarkably 1980s in style. It's rap dance style music, exactly what you'd get from a big budget movie from 1984 or 85. I think Beverly Hills Cop or Police Academy or Ghostbusters. It's perfect. It's a great match for a crazy late night hijinks that the girls of Grey Sky Blue Moon get up to. So take it away, Gun Wallace, with Grey Sky Blue Moon. was our music. Grey Sky Blue Moon, Gun Wallace's theme, and this is a comic by Zalarieth, and it's rated M. Again, I'm pronouncing stuff very wrongly. Apologies for that. All right, so Jessica, our special guest, you are in the west coast of Canada. Am I right? Vancouver?
That's right. Vancouver. Beautiful Vancouver. The mountains, the oceans, the rainforest, and the desert, all in driving distance.
Oh, wow. Is it very cold there at the moment?
Not like Ontario
Oh.
or Winnipeg, where I was born. I mean, we get maybe a few days to a week of snow, and then it's like our snow is just left now today, and it was just very thin and not that bad at all.
Wow. Okay, yeah, because...
That's nice.
What was that?
I said that's awesome.
Yeah,
That
it's
you
pretty
get-
nice. I'm not a
Yes,
fan
a
of the
bit of
cold.
everything.
We do have the mountains as well for those who like to ski and snowboard. That's where the snow can be. That's fine. Stay there.
away in the mountains. Well, we've always associated, I mean, in Australia, we associate Canada with all Canada being basically a huge glacier. So it's interesting to know that there's a lot more variation to it, like the USA, I suppose.
That's hilarious. I mean, I would think that the Americans would think that about us. I didn't know that Australians did as well.
Well, our experience of that part of the world is, well, you know, like we just know Australia, Canada as being America's very white hat. We don't know too much about the details.
Actually, in Greece also, we would think that you are an endless, snow slope for everyone that everyone skis everywhere and stuff. So
Yeah, we ski to the grocery store and everything. No,
exactly.
it's a lot. I'd say like maybe England. I mean, we're not so far from the States as well. We're right near the border, so it's quite beautiful. You guys can look at pictures to see it's destroying that stereotype about us.
I think it's one of the more expensive parts of Canada to live.
It really is. It's extremely hard here with expenses and how expensive it is.
Yeah, because it's one of the nicer places. Because everywhere else is a bit colder.
That's right. Particularly from where I was living in like Portugal and Indonesia prior.
Oh my goodness, yes. Much more humid, very much in Indonesia too. Very, very humid place, very hot. You get lots of rain there, but not much else.
Which one, Portugal or Indonesia?
Oh, Indonesia. Lots of rain in Indonesia.
Yeah, but it's still mostly quite warm as well.
Oh yes, it never gets cold. Even when it's raining, it's
it's
worse.
Correct.
It's like 500% humidity. It's terrible.
It's not so bad.
No, not my cup of tea. So you work for like this incredible company, Mainframe. Can you tell us a bit how you managed to get this to become part of this this fantastic company?
That's a funny story. So yeah, when I like I said, I was living in Portugal and Indonesia for several years, 8 years. And I came back to Canada because I missed my family and I wanted to create roots here. And I'm like, well, and I was in culture shock in my own country for a very long time. I'm still in culture shock, actually. Just getting used to the pace of life and all the changes and things like this. Portugal and Indonesia was like 50 years back in time.
Oh, really?
Horse and carriage, cobblestone road, a lot of places like that.
Wow.
Small towns. So yeah, it's really challenging at first. Like I said, it still is at times. And so I was like, well, what do you want to do, Jess? And I mean, I was like, well, I still love animation and film. I mean, I've worked 10 years in the film industry, and I was also making documentaries in Europe and Asia. So it was like, it just seemed to be a natural fit when I looked in on it, because there's a bunch of career fairs we have here. And I found out that my experience is quite complementary and for animation, because also, like I said, I had worked in animation over 10 years ago, in production, and I just thought that was in like, obsolete experience. So I wanted to make sure first if I did have a chance to get in, because if you work in production, it's not something you can really even go to school for either. There's nothing that really trains you for it. So it really is like just kind of be a PA and work your way up. However, because I did the PA thing long ago, I wanted to skip that. And so when I just kept going to these different conventions that they had, where all the HR would be for all the animation and special effects studios, because we do a lot of shows here. Yeah. So we also have Animal Logic here, which did all the Lego movies, and they're also very, very well known and based in Australia.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah.
ILM, which is like George Lucas's studio, Industrial Light and Magic. Bardell, which I really want to work at, actually, because they do my favorite show, Rick and Morty. And a lot of other studios as well. So I just learned about each one of them. We also have a bunch of gaming studios here too, EA Sports. And what I decided to do was, there was an organization there called Women in Animation. And Women in Animation provides mentorship for people who want to learn about the industry or grow in it. And so I entered and I got selected. And I was given this mentor who is a line producer at Atomic Cartoons. Atomic Cartoons is known for all kinds of really cool shows as well, such as Netflix Last Kids on Earth, which is pretty interesting. And that's based off of a comic book.
How cool.
And yeah, so I basically just told her about my passion, about wanting to get back into animation and my concerns and my experience, and she basically just helped me with everything. And so I went to several interviews and to no avail. And then I had an interview. She suggested that I contact some of her friends in the industry and invite them for coffee, and so some of the production managers, and just talked with them a bit. And that's a good way to do it, actually, I think, because you have to think out of the box when it comes to getting jobs.
Yeah.
Here. It's super competitive, and it's really hard. I think I don't like interviews myself, because I don't think people can really get to know you in an interview, because you're trying to be, what you think they need you to be in order to get the job.
Yes, definitely.
Right? So, and you're just telling them what they think they need to hear, right? I'm a people person, I'm a hard worker, a fast learner. It's very generic and very like robotic, like you're coming off an assembly line.
And everyone else is saying the same thing too.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons that also maybe in education, what isn't so necessary in this way for me, because like everybody's got the same education too. So what makes you different, right?
Yeah.
So I have very unique experience and background. So that's what I like to do. I think out of the box, and the mentor was great, and like getting me connected with her network, because it is also who you know. And yeah, so this production manager at Rainmaker or Mainframe, she's like, just apply to them. They're looking for coordinators right now. I think it could work for you. And so I was contacted pretty quickly by HR, and I remember having several interviews prior to that and not getting anything and being so discouraged. So when I went into this interview, I was super discouraged and already expecting not to get it and be discarded so easily. And it was really intimidating, because I had 3 different shows there in the room. So in total, 5 people. And so I didn't know what was going on at the time, because I was still really naive and learning how things work. But it was 3 different shows from the studio that were fighting for me.
Oh, wow.
Competing for me. And and so they were, I don't know if they said it. Apparently I did really, really well, and they wanted me to choose, because I thought I was going to be working for all of them. helping them with different shows, because that happens too, apparently. It's not that naive. So like after the interview, like 5 minutes after the interview, they called me and they said, we you got it, we want you. Now pick which show you want to work on.
Wow.
There's a DreamWorks project. There's Barbie, which they're very well known for, doing Barbie for a long time. They really built themselves through Barbie.
Yeah.
And their relationship with their client Mattel. And then there was something called Octonauts, which is like a preschool kind of a show.
Yes. I know that.
So I chose the DreamWorks show, and that's how it happened.
Oh wow! And what? Sorry, what was the DreamWorks show again?
It's a, let's say it's an offshoot of Madagascar.
Okay, is it? So it's not out yet, so you can't really talk about it.
No. It's it's a TV series.
Yeah. So this is the TV version of the movie. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, how amazingly cool! So you were telling us. So we had of course our the Patreon video before that Patreons get to have a look at that. So we talked about some more of Jessica's background and like your process as well. And you were telling us that you have to get work ready for the client. So in this case, what Mainframe is doing, the company you're working for, is is it like being subcontracted almost by these other companies? Okay.
Yes, exactly. So they basically have an idea. They have their own studio and artists, and so they prepare an episode and they send it to us basically. So we know all the assets. If you guys don't know what I mean by when I say assets, it's all the characters, the location, and the props.
Yeah.
So we get the show, we get the episode, we get the rough animatic, and we get the list of the props used in each scene and sequence, broken down, and then we look at it to see, what kind of surface is it, what kind of modeling will we do, if it requires special effects, water and fire special effects, and just basically break it down through our team about all that we need to do, how this will be for layout, and so forth.
Right, that is really fascinating, because we have within the webcomic community, we have many people working in many different styles, and there are, like all of us, Baines, Tance, and I, we draw our stuff, so it's all like from our imagination every single time. But there are very many artists who work either with 2D pixel art, where they have to create assets and then work with them almost like traditional animation, except each scene isn't animated, it's just still. But they have to have, all the backgrounds done, all the people, all effects ready. And we also have many CGI 3D artists as well doing our comics. And they will have, the models that they will work with. They'll have a whole model of a town. And actually we even have people who have work with figures. And they have to build sets, and in order to have them photographed, and they'll have to have figures with different outfits and stuff like that dressed. So yeah, they work with assets basically. So there is a bit of crossover between these worlds in a funny way.
It sounds like live action to me.
Yeah, almost. I started out myself. I used to teach animation for a while.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I taught digital animation. So, yeah, I do have a small inkling of that world as well. Just a tiny one, but teaching it to artists, so slightly different from the pressures of the commercial world. And that's another thing. You were telling us before about the enormous pressures that these commercial productions put on the people working for them, you and the artists you're working with, and the directors and all this kind of stuff, and how it can lead to burnout. Have you seen that in a lot of people?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. I've seen many artists quit because they just can't keep up with it. It's just too much. They talk about work-life balance, but there really is no work-life balance. It's just work, work, work. And you don't even have time to see like a counselor if you need to, or anything. Particularly if you have like a far commute. It's quite unrealistic. So the client basically comes to us with a project, and because DreamWorks is such a big name, and you definitely want to work with them. The studio tends to promise them the moon, and then we can't deliver, so it ends up becoming just more pressure on us to try to get more people in, and but at the same time, like, they only give you so much of a budget too, so it becomes this very back and forth push-pull, where you do your best to handle the pressure, but all around you see people cracking and breaking. Wow. So just like 5 weeks to just deliver this really high quality primary, and then another 5 weeks for secondary. And then there's supposed to be a 1 week for fixes, and now there's also a 1 week for retakes, because the client is also so particular about the detail and how they want it to be. Even like just like slight pigmentation or color change in a background character's hand.
Oh my god. So does that mean if you have a change, that has to be all re-rendered?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, if they really want that. What's also difficult is when they ask for a change in layout when it's already far into the animation stage.
Yeah.
You could just, why send it back, right? There's a lot of notes that the artists get from the client that the artist really shouldn't be getting. It should be going to production first, or the leads first, and they should then decide if the artist should see it. Because what it ends up doing is just distracting them and having them focus on this minute detail, as opposed to the bigger picture of the scene they need to do.
That's a good point. I work as a graphic designer in my day job, and I come across similar things where client notes that are not filtered through, the correct people come straight to me, and it is confusing and it messes things up. You need an order for things to go in for the process, and the artist is also, the last stage. I'll go on.
Yeah, I want to ask Jessica. I thought I was going to interrupt you. That's why I said. For comparison's sake, what would be a reasonable time frame in order to render or deliver the same project? That would be normal, as opposed to extremely pressured and impossible, and asking too much in too little time. So, for example, for that time frame that you mentioned, like having 5 weeks and then 1 week and then another 5 and so on, what would have been a normal time frame?
Double the time. Would be great. Or even just from what I saw with the amount of time, like how often they didn't get done, I'd probably say another, double is reasonable. 3 weeks, or even an extra 3 weeks would be good. But also like having way more artists. So we'd only had so many artists per team, right? 7 artists per team. That's not enough.
I see.
Presumably,
whereas some shows would have like 14 per team.
Presumably that's for keeping costs down within budget for the project. Yeah, unfortunately that is a big thing in digital animation these days. So when you say like primary and secondary, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that.
So the phases of animation, because I was I'm the layout and animation coordinator. So there's layout, 2 weeks for layout, and then primary is the first phase, basically. A rough version, let's say.
Oh, right.
Not fully animated all the way through smoothly, but enough to give an idea for the clients, so we can send it over. And so if they have any more suggestions or whatever, we can, get their feedback. And then we address all of that for secondary, where it's more smoother and more now all the details are in and things like this.
Yeah. So yeah, because it takes a lot of render time in order to produce final pieces. So this avoids doing the whole thing and then having to redo everything. It saves a lot of time just to basic versions of the work. It speeds it up a lot more and that kind of stuff, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, and we have to also deal with the farm. The farm is the kind of the thing where we send all the shots to process everything. And that, because so many artists, there's over 500 artists at the studio, it gets very slow. Yeah,
because everyone has all different projects. So what you mean by the farm is basically a lot of computers all working together as servers, and they're specialized in rendering this stuff, and that's producing the images for the animation or the video files. So yeah, you've got all these different projects that all need to be gone through there. So everybody has to sort of book their time, don't they, I imagine?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, and the assets for since we're only a few episodes in and there's already over 1,000 assets, it's a lot of assets to keep track of.
Oh my god. So yeah, this is very much a massively organization heavy kind of job. So your job is a bit like a project manager, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm a coordinator and I guess some sort of manager as well. It's a lot, because I have over 60 people on my team.
Oh my god.
And I have them all memorized.
That is incredible. So your
first and last name, where they sit, what episode they're working on, what team they're on, what shot they're on.
Jeez. So your position is pretty much one of leadership?
Yes. So it's it's super exhausting for me too. I'm trying not to have a breakdown or but I'm very close. I'll be honest.
Oh my god! And how did you say how far you were through the process of this job?
We're in the beginning phases.
Okay, all right.
And see, I'm just kind of thrown into this to sort of figure it out.
Oh yeah.
And I have to do mostly it on my own.
So as a coordinator, you are supposed to, coordinate the people on your team. But I mean, in what way do you give them the deadlines, or how exactly do you do the coordination?
How exactly do I do the coordination? So I don't give them the deadlines. They know what the deadlines are. It's on the Shotgun, which is what we use. Are you familiar with Shotgun, Oz?
No.
Okay, it's a software that we use to keep track of everything. All the shots are there. All the assets are there. All the animatics are there. The FX notes, client notes go there. It's basically the way we can all communicate with everyone, as well. And organize everything, keep track of everything. It's basically, we do production meetings and we do a check-in about where we're at on the episode, what we need, how, and trying to figure out how to get it, basically. Communicating with artists or leads or the animation directors to see how many shots they can give you for the day, how realistic it is. And things like this, and then preparing shots when they come through, watching for shots to come through, checking them to make sure they're correct, and then delivering them to the client.
I see.
Right, I like that the point you made about how realistic it is. So that is how realistic that deadline or that actually getting that done is, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I always kind of try to communicate that to kind of remind them, here's what we can do.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We that is impossible to do that. That's an
Exactly.
important thing. That's
Well,
very
that's what I'm
important.
tempted to say, and I mean, I'm not someone that's used to like going with the system and just being and butt kisser as well. Like people are very afraid to speak up, or they can lose their jobs. So I don't know. I am nervous about that, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes somebody has to say it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you do. If you, we've seen what happens all the time in projects where people are afraid to speak out, and there's unrealistic expectations. Projects blow out, they lose money, and they fail. So it is important to, to be that boy telling the emperor he's not wearing any clothes, or else bad things can happen.
Exactly. But like, you have to be careful because you're like still expendable. You are like a cog in the wheel, so sometimes it's not in your best interest to say anything.
Oh,
so
really?
I'd like to keep my mouth shut. And it is contract based, so there's only so much time, right?
Yeah.
Something I did also, though, to get the job there, I forgot to mention, was like you, I'm a big fan of Mainframe and their previous projects. So I loved Reboot as well, and I have a good memory, and I just happened to remember watching that show a lot, and I remember like all the characters, Megabyte, Hexadecimal, Bob, Dot, Enzo, and I guess that impressed them as well. Also, I like the idea, and I would love to see them do it again, this a show that teaches kids to code.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So I mentioned things like that in the interview because I do think you really do need to research the company and know more about it than they do. And be ready with a bunch of questions and things like that.
And they like to, media companies as well, they like to employ people who have like a real appreciation of the work they've done. Or fans and things like, not necessarily fans, but people who respect the work that they've produced. So they appreciate that.
Basically, people who people who have already invested time in this company that they're trying to get into, one way or the other, I think, is the key. Because if you have done your sorry?
Go ahead.
No, as I was saying that if you saw them that you have already put in some hours, or you have done your homework, or you are very familiar with them, immediately you get noticed more compared to other candidates.
Yeah, you have to stand out because it is super competitive. There are lots of people that are wanting the same job as you and to be at that company, and it's not easy. And you're just trying to build up your experience and your resume while being able to survive there and not burn out.
Yes.
Because it's very easy when things go wrong to be blamed for it as well.
Yes. Oh, that's a big part of any thing where, especially in the creative world, where so many things can go wrong when you're in like a chain, and people like to pass blame down and up. How do you avoid that? Is it by keeping records, or?
Keep records as well, or just also look to own it. I don't think there's any point in to defend yourself, but if there's something that you made a mistake in, of course you're going to make mistakes. You're learning, and there's a lot going on, and there's only so much they can show you, and also one person can show you one thing and another person can show you how to do something completely different, and it's the same thing but it's just done differently. So maybe the producer wants to have things done a particular way, their way. So both of those can be wrong.
Yes. When you're dealing with people who are in authority too, and it can be hard to reconcile different approaches between those authority figures who both said something, and you can take the blame for that. But I like your.
We're on the craziest project too. Sorry for interrupting. there's projects that are more easier to work on, like Octonauts and Barbie. Those would have been easier projects to choose. I didn't know. I'm just like, oh wow, DreamWorks, that sounds so cool. I wanted, Now it's like, oh god, why did I choose this one?
Yeah,
I was like, yep, we know so you're working on that one for you.
Yeah, because
mad. We call it mad because it makes you mad.
Right. Because this
Sorry,
is.
interrupted.
No. Sorry. With your current project, this is something that has to be delivered to a client because it's never. It's not out in the world, so this is you're creating it basically from nothing. So they have to see it and prove it and find out if it's going to work for them, and so they can sell it on to networks or streaming services like Netflix or whoever else. So it's a like you're at the start of the production chain here. But with something like Octonauts, that's already been going multiple years. They've already got it's already sold to all these different TV stations around the world and on streaming deals and stuff like that. So that's just a routine that they're they function in normally, and it will just go on and on and on like a machine. So I suppose that's the difference that's why it's a lot easier. With this one, you're having to impress the client as well as, get the damn work out there in time for them to be able to sell it on to whatever season that it has to be ready for. Yeah, that's
exactly
hard work.
And it will be going to Hulu, and probably not till next year, the following year.
Okay, all right, and they'll have to sell it based on the Madagascar the cachet behind that. Yeah, that'll help market.
Well, they've already done King Julian, I think, and there's a penguin one. I can't remember what that one is.
Happy Feet.
But they did. No. These are series spin-offs from Madagascar characters.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Baines is back. Hello, Baines.
Yeah, the Batman villain.
What?
Isn't
your
that
penguin cartoon.
That's Bane. Are we talking about the
no.
cartoon?
Oh no, I meant penguin, but you're right also, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he comes in with the okay.
Yeah.
Here's Penguin, and he's like, "I'm contributing."
Exactly. I'm helping.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. It's a multifaceted job. It's we on our QUACKCAST we often talk about the process of writing and creation and artwork and creation, all these different aspects of creating a project. And it's interesting to hear from your point of view, because that is one thing that we really haven't approached so far, this organizational aspect of it, which is just as important. We often talk about writing techniques and writing styles and artwork and all that kind of stuff. But from your position is, a massively important part of creation that we have just totally, not ignored. We just haven't even thought about till now. Terrence Baines, don't you agree that coordination of all the aspects and bringing stuff together and putting it out there is, this is like the third part of the whole thing, isn't it? This is
even if you're just yourself or just a small group, a duo or whatever, when you're doing a web comic, it's still packaging the whole thing, getting it done, and presenting it. It's that whole side of things, and then promoting it. I missed most of the episode. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you talked what exactly you talked about. I'll have to listen later.
It's like you've listened to it. Yeah. You're right on the ball there. But yeah.
Oh, good.
Production is.
You just outed yourself for nothing, Baines.
Let's not be too mean. Production is a massive, massive part of any creative project. Although we as web comic artists, we we do production, but we sort of take it for granted, and we're very weak on it, I think, because we don't really think about it as much as we should. So yeah, that's something that we really need to get better at, especially as we have, teams. They can be like teams of 2, teams of 3, sometimes even teams of 4 people getting together. And
especially like if you're going to take the next step and doing more, and like you're going to want to make maybe games or maybe animation, or like it's not much of a step really beyond doing webcomics if you want to take it to the next level, that you're going to be doing stuff that's going to require like a whole team coordinating, getting things done.
Yeah, I think often that role is taken up by like a de facto leader of the team, which is probably not really a leader's job. A leader really should be overseeing this stuff, and then having someone who specializes in that kind of coordination, and that makes it the whole process a lot smoother. I think I was listening to a discussion about types of leadership in war, in armies, and we traditionally think about tactical and strategic. Strategic is like the top level where you have the generals and that kind of stuff telling people, okay, we should invade there and there and there. Tactical is the bottom level where the people say, okay, we're going to attack this place and this is how we do it. Another level is this organizational level that people often forget about, whereas, okay, this strategic people want to do this, and the tactical people are going to do that, but how is it going to happen? How do we get from there to there? So that is an incredibly important part of any kind of leadership that, is often overlooked. But yeah, it's sorry, Jessica.
And it's
I've
also,
just been blabbing.
at what point, point is Jessica calling people, screaming at them and calling them maggots? Bring this whole army thing.
So
when was the last time you screamed at a group and called them some horrible maggot thing or something?
That sounds like military.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, you lazy maggots! Come on,
it's a little hard to picture you doing that, but I'd like to see it.
You'd be surprised.
Well, what is your style of like organizing people? Are you conciliatory or understand?
Or do you tell people that coffee is for closers?
I mean, I try to be gentle. I really care. I understand that they're going through a lot of pressure. Like I said, I really get to know them. It's a big part about communicating. I feel like a coordinator sometimes you're supposed to do the dirty work for the producer and production manager, because you put the pressure, you bug them, kind of a thing. But you're only doing that because you get the pressure and bug from the production manager and from the line producer. So it's like, right. It's like this pulling strings, like who's pulling who, basically. So I try not to be the bad guy. They are kind of scared of you sometimes because they know that you're their supervisor, and they know like that you can get them in trouble as well or report them. So I find that it takes a lot to get them to open up to you and to be honest with you about the shot if they can get it on time and things like this.
Oh, right. So you have to learn, you have to make them comfortable enough to be realistic with you, to tell you, sorry, I can't do this, or, this is my limit, rather than...
Or at least within a decent time frame. Sometimes they tend to tell me at the end, like when we have like a week or a few days to deliver. And it's like, why didn't you tell me that earlier? And usually because they assume they can get, they're supposed to do 100 frames per day, right?
Oh my god, really?
Wow.
Yeah, but then sometimes a shot can be much more trickier, or the frames can be much more trickier than they expected, because a lot of the times it's easier if there's just like one character or two, but when there's a big group of characters constantly in the frames, in the shots, then it takes a lot more time for one artist to do.
Oh, and do you know...
Stop motion, right? You're just moving them. Like, you have to move each character little by little, and
Yeah.
So sorry I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, they're moving a little bit, or sometimes it's tween. I think there's a lot of interpolation when you you move an arm or something like that on a time frame, and the computer will interpolate the rest of the movement, so you can have that happening as well. I mean, that's what I studied back when I was doing 3D animation, at least. You can have some of that, but yeah, when there's like many characters in a scene, doing a lot of that animation can be a pain. But don't they have shots where you I can't remember what it's called, but you've already filmed stuff, and then you just overlay stuff there. You like insert stuff into the shots, or
using standard animation, you mean?
Oh, it's even in 3D art as well. So what you do is like you have like standard your crowd shot that you'll insert into the background of, you know, foreground figures doing their action. That way you don't have to, okay, we're going to like set everything up for this one shot. You can sort of just, you know, stick that in the background of the shot. You know, it's like you do green screen in live action film.
That sounds like layout to me. That's what layout would do. They basically stick all the assets wherever they're supposed to be according to the storyboard and the angles. So that prepares it for animation.
Okay.
Rigging is when it's like the joints. They put the joints in each one of the assets. So if their wrists move or their fingers move, there's joints. So they have to rig each one of those places for the animators to be able to access. Yes. Modeling is when they build the asset from scratch. And just trying to think on the top of my head all the different phases, and there's creation of fur. Yeah.
Yeah, it's textures and
like clothes and hair and fur. Would that be textures?
Yeah, texture. Surfacing, actually, we call it.
Yeah, it's quite advanced, kind of complicated stuff these days, because fur has to be a lot more realistic. And all like in the world of 3D animation, everything has to be quite stylized, but also quite realistic and very scientifically done. So it's incredibly complicated, and that will get sent off to DreamWorks. Did you say for this project? And they have to approve it before you can actually go ahead. So it's quite an interesting process.
It is. It's really fascinating. I was always fascinated about the process, and the progress. You know, I used to watch all the time the behind the scenes. When we had back in the day when we had DVDs. You know, and now YouTube. I'm always looking for the behind the scenes. I'm just so fascinated about the creative process and how it all works, and how you can bring everything together and to co-create this product, you know, and to be so proud you were a part of that.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
And even more so in the world of 3D animation. I mean, like to coordinate that number of people and all these separate kind of jobs, they're all like mixed together. It's incredible, really.
Your name will be on the credits of that project too. It should be. I think.
Will. Yes, it will.
Which means you can get in for free to ComicCon in San Diego and New York or wherever else.
What? I can get in for free?
Yeah, well, you can apply for a like a professional pass, which means you get free tickets to those if they approve it. And you should be able to, because you can refer to your credits in the media industry. So yeah, if you'd want to do that, you can do that.
Hell yeah, I want to do that. That's super cool. I'm a total nerd. That's why I'm there. I want to be with the nerds, my people. And they're just like big kids. Like they have just candy and dogs and toys everywhere. People's desks are just covered with toys, action figures, and things like this, and just bright colors. And you can bring your dogs to work, and yeah, it's really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. When I went to the parent company of our website back when we still had one, which was in Los Angeles, the artists there had all that kind of stuff, that you see in all these American behind the scenes stuff. They had all the toys on their desks, and they had a broom where they played basketball and pinball, and had their guitars and everything. So this is a similar kind of thing to that, is it? With the everyone being creative and having their all creative stuff around them, posters and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just encouraged.
Well, we're coming towards the end of our time now, and it's been fascinating talking to you. Quick word on, you said Rick and Morty was one of your favorite cartoons.
Yes.
What?
I would work there.
It's very cool. One of mine as well. I haven't watched all of the fourth season yet. I've only seen the first episode of it.
Oh my gosh, you're in for such a treat.
How do you think that went so far with the fourth season?
I love the show in general. Sometimes it goes really out there for me, but I just like the kind of references they use and the kind of intelligence and the layers, and how sometimes you need to watch it over and over to understand everything what happened. I like just like the Ricks Must Be Crazy is a reference to one of my favorite movies, The Gods Must Be Crazy, right? And just his hypocrisy and this kind of atheist, nihilistic God. It's just so interesting.
Oh yes, this was
okay. Yeah,
that was the episode where they had the small universe, and then there's the universe below that, and the universe below that.
Exactly. Yeah, very very Inception like.
Yeah.
I'd have to say my favorite episode so far is in the third season, where they had the return to the Citadel of Ricks. And
a lot of people love that episode. That episode is actually the whole series of The Wire in one episode.
Oh, really? Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. That's why I think people really like that episode. I mean, it also shows the corruption and the many layers of deception and what exactly is going on, and it's just really, really well done. Pickle Rick is also really interesting, particularly from the psychology point of view, where he turns himself into a pickle to avoid seeing a psychologist. But the psychologist has a really good grasp about what's going on, and she's played by Susan Sarandon, I think.
Yes.
And the writing is just absolutely wild. Or the one where Jerry and Beth get sent to this planet to work on their relationship. Remember?
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, oh no, they're codependent. That's also really interesting.
And you see like avatars of how he sees her deep down, how she sees him.
The ideal versus the actual reality of them, and perceptions. It's all about perceptions, that episode.
Yeah.
It's enormously clever. I think part of the fan base gets too seduced by Rick's personality and his persona, and they think that's all there is to the show. But it's so very much more. It's a complicated show. It's not just this aggressive genius who can see everything and nothing matters to him. Mm-hmm. It's way more than that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I like how I don't think you've seen this episode yet, but he says to Jerry about Christmas and the God, our religious gods. He's like, well, unlike that, I wasn't born into it like that entitled ass. I earned it, basically, my godlike powers.
It's a very good take on, religion in a lot of ways, because he is godlike.
It's just so intelligent. There's so many layers and so much to explore and understand about that show, and I'm really glad we have something like that.
Hope you can manage to work on it one day.
Yeah, it's super top secret. One of my friends works on it right now, and definitely want to figure out how to get in on there. But it's also, you can imagine how competitive that must be.
Oh, yes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they only produce like 10 episodes a season, and those seasons take a long time to come out. So it's a big, big job, that one, because they're so complicated. They're only 22 minutes long, but there's so much packed in that it probably takes forever.
That's right. So when are you going to watch the rest? How come you haven't went and finished season 4? I mean, it's very short.
Well, I like to savor it. I went back over season 1 and 2 and 3, so just going back over stuff that I'm enjoying, just so I can bone up on the later episodes. So, and it's a lot of pleasure to sort of refresh myself through the whole season. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go through. All right.
Great, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Especially, this has been a real treat. A fascinating insight into the world of high-pressure digital animation, commercial digital animation. Because we are so amateur in our world in webcomics. So it's very enlightening to see how a professional media company is run and the pressures involved, especially from this perspective of production coordination. All right. Thank you for that.
Yes. You're very welcome.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone, and thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 462.
All right, thank you, guys.